My dear friends, we have all experienced rejection at different phases of our lives and in different settings, such as, for example, the playground, school and college, romantic relationships, familial relationships, business, careers, social and economic status, and more. These are different settings where each one of us has encountered rejection in some way, shape, or form. Now, the pains of rejection can be very deep and even traumatic, altering our self-confidence, our self-esteem, motivation, physical and mental health, for example. Therefore, let us take some time today to look at rejection from different perspectives and learn how to deal with it in our day-to-day lives. Because this is a very important aspect of life which, if we can manage better, would make us a lot happier and enhance our well-being. So let's start with what the literature says about rejection. What is rejection? So one definition of rejection is the act of refusing to accept, use, or believe someone or something. So it is the act of refusing to accept or use or believe someone or something. It is the act of deciding not to accept someone for a job, course of study, etc., or just basically the fact of not being accepted. Rejection is not being accepted. Rejection also is the act of not giving someone love and attention that they want, need, or expect. So rejection has many dimensions. Now let's take some examples of rejection. What are they? A person may reject or refuse to accept a gift, for example. A person may feel rejected after a significant other ends a relationship. A child who has few friends may feel rejected by peers. An individual who was given up for adoption may also experience feelings of rejection throughout his or her life. So today we're going to learn a few lessons on rejection from our friendly angels, Cyrus and Luminous, through their interaction with Charles, a 60-year-old man. They have recently become good friends with Charles, and so he has invited them to his family home for Thanksgiving dinner. And Charles's wife, Jennifer, who is 10 years younger than him, so she's in her 50s, has put together a scrumptious dinner for the family. They have two children, Jonah, who is 30, and Sarah, who is 19. Charles's parents, Alex and Martha, also joined them for the Thanksgiving party. Now, after enjoying a superb turkey dinner, followed by Martha's famous apple pie and custard dessert, they all sit in front of the fire, as per family custom. Each one of them shares what he or she is thankful for the year, and this is something they do always. And as Cyrus and Luminous sit quietly, listen to them, watch each and every expression on their faces. And then once everyone has expressed their gratitude about different things, Cyrus decides to liven things up a bit, so he throws a few pointed questions. He says to the family, "Everything you've all said so far is heartwarming. It's lovely. But now let us explore aspects of your lives that you are struggling with, so we can have more things, new things to be grateful about next year." So let's start with Sarah. Seeing that you are the youngest and the prettiest one around in this room. And he asks Sarah, he says, if there was one thing you could wish to be different about your life, what would that be? So Sarah shyly replies, she says, "Thank you for your compliment, but I don't think I'm pretty at all." And she's like she goes inwards, "I'm not pretty at all." And Luminous chimes in and goes, "I beg to differ." He says, "I think you are absolutely gorgeous. So why would you say that you're not pretty?" With a sad expression on her face, Sarah says, "I do not fit amongst my friends. I'm not like them. And hence, I find myself alone most of the time. And this has been the case for me since my early childhood. It's nothing new. So Cyrus says, so you feel rejected? And Sarah says, yes, I feel very rejected. And she has a very sad expression on her face. I feel constantly rejected, and it makes me feel very small and insignificant. I'm scared to be amongst my classmates because I feel that like everyone would rather that I wasn't there. So Sarah's family is really sad to hear this. They didn't realize how unhappy their daughter was. She looks at Jonah and says, I wish I were as cool and popular as Jonah is. And at this point, Jonah steps in and says, like you too, Sarah, I have had a rough journey. I was always bullied in the playground at school. People always ridiculed the way I dressed and the way I spoke. They laughed at me at every chance they got. At first, I thought there was something wrong with me. And like you, I preferred to keep away. Then he says, one day my PE teacher gave me the most valuable advice that changed my life. He asked me to list all my strengths and everything about me that I was proud of. And so Jonah says, and at first I struggled to answer this question because I'd really shrunk into my shell. But then as I began to list my strengths and capabilities, I began to realize that I wasn't such a loser after all. And by the time we were done, my teacher said, you are far better than most of your peers in every way. They reject you because they fear you. They put you down so they can stand taller. But on a level playing field, he says, Jonah, you are absolutely the tallest kid around. And he said, that's when I realized that the problem lay with them and not with me. So I toughened up. I became more assertive. I refused to let them put me down in any way. And each time I felt like I was losing the battle, I would go to my PE teacher and he would remind me of my self-worth and put me back on track. And he said, after graduating on top of my class, I now hold a senior position at work, and most of my nemesis have not even gotten 20% as far as I have. Cyrus said, bravo, you have realized your self-worth. And this has helped you raise your self-esteem and self-confidence. With the help of your PE teacher, once you acted on his advice, you became a leader, like you are today. And he said, that's excellent. So Sarah said to her brother, I had no idea that you were bullied and put down at school like me. Jonah said, yes, I was, indeed, all the time. But like my PE teacher said, you are the cream of the crop. And you will always rise because cream always rises. So he says, you will always rise if you recognize and hold firm to your value, your self-worth. So Jonah says to his sister, Mr. Luminous here is absolutely right when he says you are absolutely gorgeous. And one of the reasons you get put down is because the rest of your friends are nowhere near as good looking as you. And they hate the looks you get from the boys and the attention you get from the boys. So what do? They put you down. They reject you. Makes them feel better. So once again, in my experience, the people that reject you are doing so because that's the only way for them to validate themselves. They are the losers, not you. So Jennifer she said to Sarah, Sarah, you are very mature for your age. You are 19, but you are far mature than the other kids. And hence, your maturity also makes them feel inadequate. And that's another reason why they reject you. So Sarah is now smiling because her family understands her plight. And her cool brother went through the same experiences as her, but he actually did something about it. And look where he is now. So Cyrus says, okay, family, lesson number 1 is realize your self-worth. And remember, the problem doesn't always lie with you. More often than not, it lies with those who reject you. Then Grandma Martha has something to add. She says, when I was your age, Sarah, I had no friends either. But I learned the hard way that one of the reasons I was being rejected was because I was insecure and I clung too tightly to people. They found me exhausting. And she looks at her husband and says, don't say a word here. And everyone's laughing. And Grandpa Alex says, I didn't say anything. You did. And then he looks at the kids and goes, she can be exhausting. You see. But actually, just today, I put a quote out on my Facebook on this very subject. And I'll share it with you. It says, a relationship is like a flame of a candle. A relationship is like a flame of a candle. Engage or stifle it, and it blows off. Push too hard at it, and it blows off. Just let it be, and it will illuminate your world forever. Beautiful. A relationship is like the flame of a candle. Engage it or stifle it, and it blows off. Push too hard at it, and it blows off. Let it be, and it will illuminate your world forever. So Martha continues, she says, I realized that the problem was with me and not with my friends who rejected me. So I realized that I had to change. And I learned from each rejection, and I realized that most of the problem lay with me. Then she says, I came across a self-development teacher who I actually dated for a while. I love the guy. But he helped me realize that I am my own best friend. He helped me connect with my real self. And I recognized that the only one being that is present with me always is myself. So why did I need to cling to people? People would come and go, but myself is always with me. I learned to love myself and realize that I did not need validation from others. This made me secure and strong and changed the dynamics of my relationships completely. I gained many new friends, but myself is still my best friend to this very day, and I'm happy. So Cyrus chimes, love yourself and be happy with yourself as your best friend, because there's really no better companion for you than yourself. And Cyrus continues, he says, Martha, I know that you were unable to revive many of the relationships that broke down due to the rejection. And maybe because it was too much work for you to revive them. And also maybe those who rejected you also had lots of problems of their own to worry about. And so things never got dealt with. But he said, but you made your life about you and not them, and built so many wonderful new relationships. Mark his words. You made your life about you, not them. This is very important. And he said, as a result, you built so many wonderful new relationships. So Sarah, lesson number 2 is love yourself and find a deeper friendship with yourself. That's the second lesson. Start by loving yourself. He says, when people reject you, you react by hating yourself. And that's why you suffer so much pain. Start by loving yourself. Smile every morning when you look at the mirror and say to yourself, I love you. Thank you for you. Thank you for me. And then do what your brother did so well. List out all your qualities that you are proud of, and based on what you think and not what others think. And you will realize what an amazing being you are. And like Grandma Martha said, use the experience of rejection as an opportunity of learning. So that was another lesson. And Charles said, I can attest to what our dear friend Cyrus has just said. He said, when I graduated from medical school, I wanted to specialize in pediatric surgery. And I got rejected every place I applied. I kept getting rejection after rejection, until I began to question my capabilities and question my own value. But then he said, after all the doors that had closed on me, one new door opened, and it was an opportunity in medical technology. And I really enjoyed the business aspects of this new field. And here we are today. We are the proud owners of one of the country's largest medical technology company. Had I not been rejected over and over, because I too was as bullheaded to accept that there was another door awaiting me, we may never have built what we have today and had so much fun at it at the same time. So Lumina steps in and goes, opportunity cost. Guys, opportunity cost. Imagine if you had gone down the pediatric surgery route and found yourself getting more and more frustrated because he looks at the family and goes, let's face it, surgery is not your greatest strength. Even barbers can do better than you. And everyone's laughing. So he said, you could have wasted years and years, and there would have been very costly years in terms of opportunity. So opportunity cost is something we all need to factor in. And rejections often lead us to the right opportunity. I mean, I can share my own example. When I was studying in England, I was doing my A-levels in the 70s. And I wanted to go for medicine and become a neurosurgeon. And I applied to all these medical schools, and each and every one of them rejected me. And I remember calling my mom in Kenya and going, I don't know, is something wrong with me? I'm a good student, I'm doing well. How come I'm getting rejected all over the place? And my mother said to me, well, there is that one door that will open for you, and it will be the right one for you. So don't be disappointed, keep trying. And then the door of chemical engineering opened, and I had no idea about engineering. I was all geared towards the medicine. And I became a chemical engineer. My passion was water, and I found myself becoming a water specialist, working so much, and I built an entire career in the environmental industry doing things I love. So when I look back, those rejections led me to where I am today, sitting before you. And thank God I didn't go down the neurosurgery route. Because when I turned 40, my hands began to shake. And it's called familial tremor. It's nothing serious. But I'm sure none of you would like me to open up your head and do an operation with these shaky hands. So thank God I didn't go for neurosurgery. Otherwise, I'd have to change my profession after 40. So Cyrus says the way the universe works, it leads each one of us through many doors, whether they be business, careers, romance, the right partner, family, or whatever. And rejection is one of the ways you get directed to where you need to be. So, such as the right business, the right relationship, the right partner, the right opportunity. So take rejection in your stride, because 100% of your fellow beings also experience rejection like you all the time. So you're not alone. Everyone suffers from rejection. But if you put your rejections in the right perspective, it doesn't hurt anymore, because you understand the purpose it's serving. Then each rejection, when it happens, you thank it for saving you from an opportunity cost. Remember the word opportunity cost. So thank that rejection for saving you from an opportunity cost you absolutely want to avoid. So Sarah is feeling a lot better now. She wants to raise another one of her quandaries. She says, when I'm rejected and feeling down, she says, my teacher looks at me and says, snap out of it. It's no big deal. And this makes me feel very small. It makes me feel even worse. So she says, it's awful when I'm told to snap out of it and it's not a big deal. And Cyrus goes, of course, that's very insensitive of your teacher. Because no matter what the source of your rejection is, and your teacher sees whatever has happened as being no big deal, it's a big deal for you. You are a very sensitive person, and it hurts. No matter what the source of rejection is, it still hurts. So your teacher has to understand, people around you have to understand that you need to validate your feelings And because you're very sensitive to rejection, the pain doesn't go away easily unless you process your emotions fully. And then let them go based on whatever techniques you have learned, such as detachment, for example. So Cyrus emphasizes to Sarah, you must respect and validate your feelings because this is very, very important. Don't belittle them because it only makes matters worse. You must accept the way you feel and process it the way you know best. No one knows you better than yourself. And Sarah is relieved to hear this because comments like it's not a big deal, snap out of it, you're being a drama queen, all this make her feel smaller and weaker. And she asks Cyrus, you spoke about detaching from these feelings. How does one do that? It's very difficult to let go. So, can you teach me about detachment? Cyrus replies, there are several ways to detach yourself. Firstly, it can be achieved through affirmations. Affirmations. And a good example is you say to yourself, this does not matter. It is unimportant. It does not make me, nor does it break me. This does not matter. It is unimportant. It does not make me, nor does it break me. He said, this way you diminish the significance of the rejection. You detach from the emotion of that rejection because you diminished its value. Other affirmations are, I am me, I have value. Or, if they cannot appreciate me, it's their loss, not mine. Cyrus says, I also find invoking the thought of the Creator can be very, very helpful, no matter what name you refer to your Creator by. He says, words like, I'm not alone, God is with me. I'm not alone, God is with me. He said, these are very soothing and empowering words because loneliness is one of the reasons we fear rejection. So when you take away the loneliness by saying, I'm not alone, God is with me, that fear of rejection goes away. Also, he says, I use a very simple meditative technique to clean out thoughts and emotions of hurt. So he says, all right, let me teach you this technique. So he says, okay. And if you can all, let me explain the technique to you for a second. We're going to have a golden cage about this size. It's a nice big golden cage. In this cage are colorful birds flying around. Each one of these birds, tiny little ones, is a thought, is an emotion that is connected to the rejection you've just suffered, the pain you are holding. So these birds are flying around, and this meditation is about letting them go. So sit back. It's only a 2-minute meditation, but sit back, close your eyes, and breathe freely. Be completely relaxed. And I'd like you to imagine that in front of you is a golden cage. And in this golden cage, there's lots of little colorful birds flying around, making lots of noise. They're high energy, spinning about, chaos. And you decide you want to let them all go. So you open the door of the cage, and they all start flying out, flying away one by one, chirping away, making noises. They leave and disappear into the horizon. And as they are leaving, you repeat, release and empty. Release and empty. Release and empty. And you let all these birds fly away until the cage is now completely empty. Your mind is empty. The emotions have all gone. You are now, everything is silent now. You are in pure silence. Pure silence. And you are at pure peace. 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 And you can open your eyes. This is a short technique, but you let these birds go, empty your cage, go down to zero. When they're gone, there's pure silence. It's a great place to be. So let them go. And then finish your meditation with peace. So you press that reset button. Your emotions are fine. They are recalibrated into peace. So the whole family is in awe of Cyrus. These are simple but profound solutions, Grandpa Alex says. And he has his own experience of rejection to share. He says, since childhood, I have faced loads of rejections. And some of the experiences were deeply hurtful. And like you, Jonah and Sarah, I too have been bullied in worse ways than you can imagine. Because I grew up in a very cruel world, and it was a world where we suffered a great deal of poverty and cruelty, and I grew up amidst all that. So I've faced probably far worse than you have. And he said, one of the mistakes I made was to talk to myself in a very negative way after every rejection. I convinced myself that it was all my fault. He says, I would use internal language like, I hate myself. I am useless. I am worthless. I am a loser. I will never get anywhere in life. I am fat and ugly. No woman will ever love me. I said horrible things about myself. And that sank me lower and lower with each rejection. Then I became very ill. Because when you tell yourself that you hate yourself, your body, which is very intelligent, says it's time to self-destruct. Your body says to itself, I have no reason to be anymore. So I developed serious colitis because my body started breaking itself down. And I had to wear a bag on my waist because my intestines were too damaged. So I had to wear a bag for a long time. And he said, then I met your grandma. And she taught me so much. And she said, I'm glad that she dated that self-development guy. I'm not glad about the dating idea, but I'm glad she dated him because what she learned from him and taught me transformed my life. Starting with an immediate change in my internal vocabulary. Just like our friend Cyrus said, love yourself. Love yourself and be happy with yourself as your best friend because there is no better companion than yourself. Remind yourself every single day that you love yourself, that you value yourself, that you are grateful for your companionship with yourself. You know, everything about life, he says, is temporary. All these people that hurt you will come and go, but yourself is always with you because it is eternal. He says, I learned to respect myself and nurture myself with loving thoughts and vocabulary. And I placed myself as the most important being in my life. And that diminished the power of all my rejectors and tormentors because I placed myself as the most important being in my life. Perfectly put, Alex, Luminous says. Refrain from negative self-talk and only use positive and loving internal vocabulary. Another great lesson. Cyrus then looks at Jennifer, who is in deep thought, and he knows she has more questions. So he says, you have spoken the least of all today. And Jennifer says, yes, I'm taking in all these very useful suggestions about rejection, these lessons, and I believe that they're very helpful lessons. She says, however, I have a friend who left her husband many years ago with her son and daughter, who she then raised all by herself to become fine young people. And the children are adults now, and they have their own partners, and they have their own homes, and they live far away from their mother. But in the recent years, their relationship with their mother has reached an all-time low, mostly through what I think have been misunderstandings and toxic emotions that none of the three of them were ever able to process. She has tried talking to her children, and they've all had professional therapies together. But today, the way I see it, they're all lost. all three of them. They reject her even though she's one of the nicest people I've ever met, and she is dearly loved by all her friends. But when it comes to her children, they don't seem to want her in their space. Their rejection has inflicted immense pain upon her. Her daughter has recently been diagnosed with cancer, and even though her mother dearly wants to go there and help her and nurse her, she's pushing back, despite the grave illness which would normally be a wake-up call for most people. Her son has also been suffering from serious digestive issues too. So she is heartbroken. What could I say? What could one say to a mother like her about rejection? Do you have any suggestions for her, Cyrus? So Cyrus reflects for a moment and says, that is definitely a very, very difficult situation with no magic wand answer. But here are some of my thoughts. Number one, she cannot reverse the clock. None of the three of them can. Number two, they are all carrying a very heavy and toxic emotional burden from their journey together. The daughter's cancer and the son's health issues have to be all intermeshed with each other with these emotions. Therefore, they are all in physical damage mode, which has turned into chronic illnesses for some of them. I believe the mother is the best person with the greatest wisdom and life experience here, and she is the best person to start the healing process for her family. But how can she do that? Jennifer asks. And Cyrus replies, firstly, she needs to accept that the rejection is here, it is real, and here to stay. So she need not waste any more time and tears and emotional energy trying to keep figuring out how and why they got here. How did they get into this space? Because like you said, therapies haven't worked, so that is unimportant. She needs to get into that space where she accepts that the rejection is here to stay. So step one is full acceptance. It's like when you climb up a rocky mountain. You anchor your support by nailing it firmly into the rock because it's a firm starting point for the rest of the steps upwards. So the first step is accept the rejection. That's a firm anchor point. The next step is to start the healing process using the power of her thoughts and spirit. She can do so by going back to all their happy memories and drawing strength from them. She can send her children very positive thoughts and blessings. A mother's blessings can have immense power and can heal. She can focus on happy pictures that bring back her love to the surface because her love is buried under a lot of hurt. Look at these happy pictures and let the love come back to surface. And she can send this love to her children through positive vibrations and energy. She needs to detach from all the negative thoughts and experiences using the affirmations and the golden cage meditation, which we have all just learned. Each time these thoughts show up, she could release them by opening the golden cage and let them go, and then reset herself into that silent space with peace. And then her emotional reset button is pressed. She should anchor herself in the thoughts of love and healing and using the technique of anchor thought. Now, I've shared this technique of anchor thought in masterclasses 1 and 2 on meditation, the very first 2 videos. And also there is a 7-minute art of anchor thought guided meditation, which I recommend you practice if you haven't done so before. And this is available on my YouTube channel and on our website. So she should anchor herself in thoughts of love and healing. And her energy will reach her children for certain, for they are both connected to her soul. Remember, she carried them in her being for 9 months. So these thoughts will also help her heal as well, because anchoring oneself in this powerful state of being can be very, very therapeutic. Her thoughts are very important. Just as her thoughts can heal, her anger and hurt can equally destroy her children, mentally and physically. So she holds the key to healing and restoring her family. Then Cyrus says the next step for her is to exercise complete patience and trust in the healing process. And it will work if she is committed to it. Trust is the key. The next step after that is to start sending the children gentle and loving communications. Very short, simple messages like praying for your healing, I love you, I'm so grateful to have you in my life. She will know the other messages that her children will resonate with. Remember, they are the most confused ones here. And so anything warm, loving, and positive, with zero reference to the conflict from their mother, these thoughts will germinate like seeds in their minds. These messages will also help the mother heal too, because she has set aside her ego and her right to complain as an aggrieved party. It's a difficult thing to do, but once she has done so, her maternal powers will take over, and this can heal her as well as her children. Sharing a picture here and there of their happy times is also helpful. They find a healthy place in the hearts of the recipients. This is my advice, Cyrus says. Everything she does in trying to heal her children will help her heal at the same time. Her perspectives of the rejection will change in a positive way, because today she receives the brunt of the rejections and interprets them in the worst possible way. But for example, maybe has she considered the possibility that in her daughter's mind, she may be so engrossed in her challenges and fear that she may be saying to herself, I don't have the energy to deal with my mom right now, because all she knows is conflicts with her mom. So it's a simple defense mechanism. But of course, for our mom, it is being interpreted as a very painful and deep rejection. However, from the mother's perspective, when the perceived energy of conflict is replaced by love, and she sends this love to her child, then the child may become less resistant. She may realize that her mother can fill her with energy rather than drain her. And this is how things slowly start to change for the better. Lumina says to Jennifer, do tell your friend that we bless her with a great deal of strength, love, and compassion for the journey that lies ahead. So, my dear friends, the solutions offered for Jennifer's friend are applicable to all types of relationships damaged through rejection. This example happens to be a parent-child relationship, but the solutions apply to all kinds of relationships and all kinds of situations. So now it's time for the Thanksgiving party to end. Cyrus and Luminous thank their hosts, and Cyrus says, before we leave, can each one of you briefly name a lesson you learned today about rejection? Starting with the prettiest person in the room, and he looks at Sarah. And Sarah smiles and says, number one, realize your self-worth and remind yourself of it always. Realize your self-worth and remind yourself of it always. Number two, respect and validate your feelings. They are important to you. No one can tell you how you are feeling except you. Don't let anyone belittle the way you feel. Ignore their comments. Grandma Martha says, number three, everyone faces rejection. It happens to everyone all the time. You are not alone in feeling rejected. Remind yourself of that after every rejection. Number four, love yourself and be happy with yourself as your best friend, because you really have no closer companion than yourself. So then it's Jonah's turn, and Jonah says, number five, make rejection an opportunity to learn from. Charles says, number six, rejection leads you to the correct door that awaits you. It saves you from paying a huge opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. Grandpa Alex says, number 7, refrain from negative self-talk after a rejection. Use only loving, positive internal vocabulary. Practice the affirmations and the meditation of the golden cage as often as you need to. Now it's Jennifer's turn, and she says, from the example of my friend, I have learned many lessons. So number 8 is accept rejection as an anchor point to move forward from. Number 9, heal yourself through detaching from the negativity of rejection. Number 10, anchor yourself in a state of love and healing. Number 11, send positive thoughts and vibrations to the loved ones who are rejecting you. Number 12, initiate loving communications with short and reinforcing messages. And number 13, trust in the healing process. So these are the 13 lessons that the family has learned during that Thanksgiving party. So Cyrus and Luminous say goodbye to everyone, and as they're walking away, Luminous says to Cyrus, there were more lessons left to share. Why did we stop here? Cyrus replies, today was a great start. We will revisit the subject again later with them when they are ready to learn more. So with that, my dear friends, I'd like to conclude today's insight, which I hope you enjoyed. I think we can all relate to rejection in our own ways because none of us has been spared from it. It is part of our lives. It is a regular closer of doors that leads us to better options. So it's more often than not a friend rather than a foe. And I pray that you may all be blessed with the strength and clarity to deal with the rejections you face every day in a healthy, constructive, and positive manner. Stay blessed always.